Welcome to episode 261 of the Bear Trap on the Boom and Bust channel, Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Chicago Bears. It seems like we always have to do this, especially when we're winning, just like 2018. As soon as we're winning, everybody makes every excuse in the world to just believe in hope. And then when we lose, then all of a sudden it's a blame game, but whatever. We always have to do this. But it is funny to me, I think, as we are starting to wrap up the Nagy era, to see how much flip-flopping has happened, especially for those who have been around since I first started this. Some people are still around. They still comment. And there's some people that I've seen flip-flop 2 or 3 times about who's to blame. So we are going to talk about what is closer to fact and what is closer to fiction. In my opinion, of course, but I think the writing has been on the wall. So there's a number of things to talk about. Obviously with the offense being the first part that everybody is, speaking on, the last few days. So now, let's start with this idea. Let's start with Matt Nagy. Everybody, I wouldn't say everybody, obviously I would say half the people were really quick to say, hey, Nagy's the problem. His offense is just not creative, or his play calling's bad, his system's bad, all that. Now, if you are any type of regular listener, you already know how I feel about that type of discourse, because most people, you sit them down, they have no idea what they're talking about when they talk about a system or when they talk about a scheme. But understandably, people were still complaining about Nagy, whether it was his time management or whatever. And a lot of people felt that he was holding Trubisky back somehow, which I think is funny, because a lot of what people were saying is, hey, you need to play to your quarterback's strength and do things that he feels more comfortable with. That's you making the quarterback look better than they actually are. And I've always had this argument about Trubisky and any quarterback, that if you need to do certain things to make them look good, then that is a sign of what they actually are. And as much as people were hoopla last year, and some obviously still big fans this year, you look at Lamar Jackson and it is what it is. I mean, you look at the team, as good as they are running and as good as they are moving the ball, that way they're not the best passing team. And we've seen what happens in the playoffs. Now, again, does not say you can't be effective. Again, I've said that many times, and some people would say our defense is so great that just being effective is enough. I would argue not enough for a Super Bowl, but yes, obviously effective would be better than not. But the point is, if you have to make a quarterback look effective, then you're not really holding them back. You're just trying to do them favors at that point. And so I don't believe that Nagy was ever holding Trubisky back. Do I believe that some of the pieces around him were limiting what he could do? Yes, because there's other quarterbacks that got great weapons and that helped their development. And there's some quarterbacks that you see what they look like without those great weapons now. They don't look the same. And so I think that's part of it. And then also there's just limitations to Trubisky, and that's who he was coming out of college. So talking about Nagy again, as we look at it now, what's closer to fact than fiction? Is Nagy a bad play caller per se? I would say that's closer to fact than fiction. We've had ample time to see it. And play calling, as I mentioned, is a complicated thing. Most casual fans aren't able to really encapsulate everything. They're usually talking about one part of play calling. Play calling encompasses a whole lot of stuff. But we know the time management has been very suspect, whether that's just his decisions and how he uses timeouts. But really what's most frustrating for me is to watch the offense not be able to get the play call out quick enough, get lined up quick enough and all that. Obviously, it's not every time, but really it shouldn't happen. And it shouldn't happen like in the first quarter where you already are taking a timeout on your first drive. Like that should not happen. So those things come from preparation. And obviously, I think sometimes the time management, whether it's the use of timeouts or it's the using the clock to attack before halftime or get yourself in position, or even the ability to grind the clock out when you're trying to play keep away, it has been pretty bad. I would say his play calling or his offense has been pretty unimaginative. And it's been better this year. And again, I don't know. I'm not in a room to tell you who has more influence, but at the end of the day, head coach has to sign off on it. And so whatever changes they made this year, they're noticeable. And I've been talking about that. And I think they better serve our weapons. But, I'm going to give Nagy credit for that. However, in the past years, it was way more stale. And so I will give us the thumbs up there. But at the same time, our game planning hasn't been great. So while we have some different things and some different looks and some things we can call, I think our game planning to attack and like switch it up and when we call it, not just run the pass, but I mean what we call and when we call it to get us in a set that's going to exploit a matchup or that's going to, or mismatch, I should say, or is going to get us into something that's going to set us up for later. You look at the Rams. While I don't think the Rams game plan was overcomplicated, it was clearly there. Like, we're going to play empty, and because the Bears don't give it up deep, rally to the ball. We're going to play empty and throw it short, and then we're going to run a jet series the whole game. I know McVay talked about attacking the perimeter, but even that, it's not just running a jet sweep. You got to come out in that formation early, see how they line up. Is it how you expect it? And then go from there. Or if it's slightly different, okay, do we need to make an adjustment to some of our plays? And then you have to have 2 or 3 counters off of that. And so they really had a game plan that you saw that they executed. Whereas with the Bears, a lot of times it does, I mean, especially, I watched the film, it looks like we are just calling things. And then when we get in trouble, we go back to some of our bread and butter plays that everybody kind of knows are coming. And again, I still think it's been a lot better this year, but still not as quite to the level of what it needs to be. So that's how I feel about Nagy. And then the thing is, nobody's scheming up to make everybody look great. It's just not going to happen. You have to play with what you have as well. And there's definitely some parts that are a lot less desirable. And so I see people say, like, somehow Nagy's just supposed to make the offensive line look great. There's not a whole lot you can do. There's things you can do to a certain extent, but there's not a whole lot you can do, especially when you get behind. When you're behind 2-3 scores, there is no hiding the offensive line. There's no hiding the quarterback. And that goes for whoever's back there. And then you really see who you are, especially when you're one-dimensional. The best thing a team can do, offense can do, is be able to misdirect the defense. And that usually happens in the first half. And after that, they get more settled in, and you got to really play some football. You got to be able to move the ball on the ground to grind out first downs, or you got to be able to complete passes. Simple as that. So I wouldn't say like completely it's up to Nagy or anybody to just scheme to make anybody look good. There's some real issues on the offense. So then that brings me to the bigger problem. The offensive line is atrocious right now. And last year people were talking about atrocious. No, this is worse. In my personal opinion, obviously it's essentially the same team, but Cowher's out there at left guard, and Fetty's out there. And Fetty effective at some things, but like I said, again, you can go back and look at the comments when we signed Fetty about how absolutely over the moon people were selling this dude. I'm like, okay, no, he's not that. He's solid, but anything's better than Cowher, but no, he's not that. He's not no Pro Bowler like y'all trying to make it seem like. And he's been that. He's been solid. And then now you bring in Cowher, that's a big hole. And then Leno is just playing, it's hard because he's had not moments, but he had some games where he actually played pretty good. Like the Bucks was very surprising how well he played, but overall just terrible and just really destroys a lot of our plays. Now, obviously last year and this year it's cool to talk about the offensive line. That's something that I talked about seasons ago. And I said we needed to address the offensive line. While, some people were happy about all these other moves. I'm like, yeah, but, and even far back when Trubisky and Leno were Pro Bowlers, I'm like, bro, first the Pro Bowl you voted in, and then all these alternatives because of the new format. I'm like, Leno is not no Pro Bowl caliber tackle, and Trubisky definitely ain't no Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. And all I got was, you're a hater, you're a hater. I'm like, okay, I'm telling you, I know what a Pro Bowl caliber tackle looks like. Leno is not that. Leno, for where he was drafted, has way outplayed expectations, but he's not that nice. And Massey has never been good. I didn't even understand that signing. He was terrible in Arizona. So, yes, that all comes to fruition, especially with the injury. And it affects everything. I mean, it affects the run game. It affects the passing game. Eventually I'll go through Nick Foles' passes and you'll, most likely see a lot of issues come when there's no time. I wouldn't say no time to throw. Like people again last year were exaggerating. He's got 1 second, 2 seconds. Like, no, but you don't have the 6 seconds it might take to do a long developing play. And so for any quarterback back there, that's going to be a big issue. So I think what's closer to fact when we're talking about how the offense operates is that offensive line, because again, people get too enamored with schemes. They keep talking about, oh, Nagy scheme. Oh, this person's scheme. None of that means anything over the execution. None of it. I'm telling you, like 100,000%. Execution is 80% of the game. Any real coach will tell you that. Like the X's and O's do not matter if the players don't execute it. Part of that is responsibility of the coach to get them to that point. But at the same time, you are limited by the talent that you have. Like you can, people think there's these magic plays that you can just draw up. Football is not checkers. It's chess. There's definitely times where you might have a call or you might do a tweet because you saw a certain tendency, or you do a certain matchup and like in that crucial third down, it works, or it causes a crucial turnover, or you might hit on one play something that you've been looking at all week. Yes, those moments happen, but as far as just a magic scheme that's just going to make everything work, that doesn't exist on either side of the ball, because if it did, everybody would be doing it. So there's no one that can do that. So all the talk of the scheme and everything, what's closer to fact is that the offensive line really hinders a lot of that. Off that point, there's the Trubisky talk. Obviously, a big point has been, should Trubisky come back in? A lot of people calling for that. So the poll that I did is up to 127 votes now. And interesting results. I mean, 40%, the majority say keep rolling with Foles. Basically, that's our best chance. 38% says it doesn't matter. Kind of blaming Nagy, blaming the offensive line, whatever, what have you. And then there's 22% that say bring Trubisky back in. So it's not an insignificant amount, at least from that sample size, of people that think we should bring Trubisky back. So let's talk about this. Again, if you've been around, especially last year, you know how I feel about this, where I'm going. This idea that Trubisky's fine and that Nagy was holding him back, or that he was scapegoated and Foles isn't any better, I think is way closer to fiction, because the fact is we do move the ball better with Foles. And also what's closer to fiction is this idea that Trubisky will be better because he's mobile and the offensive line isn't blocking. Tell me how that worked out the last 2-3 years. Like that does not matter as much as you want to think it does. Yes, he's more mobile than Foles, but as I said many times, all that running around stuff, it does not equal as much success as being able to throw from the pocket. The best quarterbacks, the best throws, the ones that consistently move the ball are the ones that can throw the ball in those tight windows. And tight windows mean in coverage and the pressure around them in the pocket. Because football is a game of inches and seconds. Like, people don't want to hear that, but it's true. Like, it can be a slight inch off, and that the difference between an interception and a completion. And so you have to be able to stay in the pocket to make those big plays. Obviously, you can make plays extending the play, but that is not as sustainable as it is being in the pocket. So to that end, yes, he can move in the pocket more quickly, but that doesn't really equate to success. And obviously we know that. On top of that, Trubisky's pocket awareness ain't that great. So let's not act like he's some great manipulator of the pocket. Foles isn't either. I think Foles is very much a statue. Like, I'm just going to stand here and throw it because I got the arm to. And I think his arm's pretty good, but it's not like, elite level or anything. But he can definitely move the ball. But he likes to stand there, take the shot, and make the throw, which I respect. But at the same time, Trubisky, he's not some master of the pocket. And so all this, he can make defense pay with his feet. He can extend the play, do that. Please show me where he consistently does that. Why do we all, the grass is greener on the other side. I swear, with a lot of Bears fans, that's how it is. As soon as one thing's out, let's go to that because we haven't seen that, so that must be better. It's just like people running around trying to put out small fires in a burning building, because it's like, Alex Bars isn't playing, he must be better. Put Alex Bars in. Like, what? Ryan Nall isn't playing, he must be better. Put him in. Every tight end imaginable on the practice squad, put them in. They must be better. Trubisky hasn't been playing, put him in. He must be better. Like, it's so idiotic to me, to be honest. Not to say that there's not some type of discussion to have right now, but I think it's the way people are talking about it is kind of idiotic. So, again, what's closer to fiction to me is all that, and this idea that somehow Trubisky is going to come in and be much better. And it's fiction that the offense is worse without him. Like, we move the ball. In all the games, we moved the ball, not consistently. We still had those issues, but we moved the ball much better since Foles has been in than we have before. That's just point blank, period. And I don't have those advanced stats to lay it out for you, but obviously watching the games, we can see that we pick up more first downs. We get to the red zone more. And so that's how it's been, at least over these few games. So that whole notion to me is just way overplayed. It absolutely is. What's much closer to fact is what I said last year. This is a bit of everybody's fault. I mean, that they all contribute. Yes, the receivers too. Yes, I think we have a great skill position core. I thought we did last year. And then with Mooney in the mix, who is absolutely a starting caliber receiver, with Jimmy Graham still being as effective as he can be, and with Cole Kmet and others, like, we absolutely have a great skill set or skill position. However, we still do drop the ball. Now, I don't think it's as bad as last year, but we led the league in drops. And so part of that is still with us, and that contributes. The run game goes nowhere. That is a big contribution. And part of that is Dave Montgomery, as great, and I think really great, like really underrated because of how the numbers look. Really great as he is, his vision gets him in trouble sometimes, but the offensive line, big culprit. And Nagy, again, not really game planning to give us that leg up, especially early in the game. It's all contributed into the same thing as I mentioned last year. And when everybody, and they still do, well, see, it was Nagy's fault. He put Foles in and it's still not good. And people was like, oh, well, see, as soon as Foles had a good game, see, Trubisky, it was his fault. I don't know how else to put this, but it's pretty simple, especially in football. It's a team effort. And so going to the defense, I mean, I think those facts are there. We're not like what people hyped us up to be that first year. We are really good. We bend don't break. I would say the only difference is we really haven't been getting the turnovers that we were before. But I think we're pretty much similar. Obviously, I think Trevathan has taken a step down, but Roquan has taken a step up, and I still think Houston Carson has been pretty good filling in that role in dime. And I think Jalen Johnson has really helped round us out. We're still, like, we're not no lockdown corners, but we are good at what we do. And I wish we played more cover too, but we're good at what we do. But what's closer to fact is that we aren't good enough to just shut everybody down. Like, obviously, when you watch TV, they sensationalize things. They talking hyperbole. This stingy Bears defense, this the ferocious defense, this unrelenting defense. That's not really the case. I mean, I'd say it's never the case, but we're not some type of high flight defense. We're a really good defense with potential to play great, especially against the right matchups. But we definitely have holes. We definitely have holes on all three levels. I think what's really closer to fact is that if we don't get it taken care of on the first level, we get in trouble, whether that's screens, whether that's the run game, and definitely whether that's pass rush. If we don't get it taken care of on the first level, we get in trouble. Now, that's not to say the secondary can't cover. Obviously, they can, but there's definitely limitations, especially when we're talking about a vertical game. And so when we don't get the pass rush, and I won't say, again, there's most of the time it's coverage sacks. We really do have the ability to lock down in front of us, but we do have issues with vertical passing games. But again, if the pass rush stalls, we really get in trouble, mainly because the NFL likes to play in the middle of the field and our linebackers are not able to both be where they need to be. And so that hurts us. And in the run game, Roquan, again, as good as he is, man, he is not coming downhill. That man is getting blocked down the field, and he is not getting off that block. So it is tough. It is tough, but we have a great defensive line rotation. For the most part, there's some issues with containment, but for the most part, we have a great first level, and that's where a lot of our ability starts. And so I think what's true is that our linebacking, our two linebackers have taken a hit with Trevathan step down. We definitely can be challenged vertically, as we know. And really, we can be challenged over the middle of the field if a team like the Lions and like the Rams choose to attack where Trevathan is, especially with play action and whatnot. So that's what we are as a team. As I said last year, and I still feel the same way, and I've been saying it most recaps, what I don't think we're a competitor for the title. I think we're a team where if the breaks fall our way, that we can compete with most teams in the NFL. And the big part of that is if the breaks fall our way. And I said that. People want to push back against that. They even said that in the game, talking about that. Like, the breaks have fell. They have. It is what it is. And, like, again, I don't know why people want to argue with me like I'm just making this stuff up just to be contrary. It is what's happening in front of our eyes. And so then when we get against real competition, like people that are competitor, like playoff competitors, then we start to really see the holes in the team, especially when we get behind and the offense is sputtering. So anyway, that's what I feel. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. I'm sure everybody's got all these opinions about it. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.